Okay, we are live and we are recording here. We are going to learn another lesson today. We're going to learn about pattern matching, also called globbing as far as I'm aware, and brace expansion. And we're going to be learning brace expansion just because we need to do that in order to learn about globbing. So before we get the video and the content started, let's go through my little video rules that I have right here. Mostly because they're just video rules that I have. I'm giving away free information. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch the rest of the video. Please appreciate it. Secondly, I may get things wrong. I don't tend to think that I get things wrong, but we all get something wrong at some point in time, but address it in the comments if I do. I'm here to learn as well. There's always something new that I'm learning, just like you. I can't know it all. Help me out. And I always tell this to my kids. In fact, I am shooting these videos for the benefit of my kids. They are in school right now. I want to take just a few minutes every day. Well, no more than 30 minutes is my goal. In fact, let me start my timer. And just feel lucky that you have the opportunity to learn. It is amazing that YouTube, you can pretty much learn anything. And you don't have to pay for a college education if you don't want to. If you want to be notified, you can subscribe. Click the bell notification icon. Otherwise, it'll be obvious I'm not putting a whole lot of time into this. Production quality is hopefully good enough, but let's take a look at our topics of pattern matching, also called globbing. In fact, I have a web browser here behind me, and I'm going to put in globbing Linux. Let's put in globbing Linux and see what it comes up with. These keywords are wonderful terms to know. If you know the word globbing, every industry has its own language, but you can see right here we've got a really nice little example. File globbing is a feature provided by Unix Linux shell to represent multiple file names using special characters called wildcards. Now, we will learn about this. It actually turns out that in the shell, it's more called, it's referenced as pattern matching, as we'll see in the docs. But there are examples all over the internet that you can go take a look at. Boy, this one's even bringing up the concept, I don't want a Linux ebook, of regular expressions, which that is a completely separate video that we'll have to get into. Globbing and regular expressions are two different things. Regular expressions is a much more expansive way of doing pattern matching, where it's got its own dedicated library. The PCRE, Perl Common Regular Expressions, I think that's what it's called. You can look up PCRE if you want to know about it. I don't know if Perl was the first to do regular expressions, but let's get into what globbing is. In fact, I have, let me see here, cat users. I'm put it in the shared folder, and then I called it links. There we go. There's our two links. If you would like to open these links, so I've gone to GNU. Started by, I think, Richard Stallman. Nice thing here, you can see I'm holding down the command key here in iTerm. What's really cool about this is you can just click here in the shell and it will bring up the web browser. So this is the Bash manual reference, and because we're using Bash, we learned about the different shells in a previous video where you can switch to the C shell, or cache is what I know it as, or the Z shell. Different shells that basically just work in different ways. Now, this concept of the brace expansion versus the globbing, these are things that are somewhat specific to the shell, but most modern shells sort of copy and borrow from other shells, and they try to stay the same. Now, the one thing that's really cool about this came from a real-world experience that I had where I had a bunch of files in one folder, and I wanted to move a lot of those files into a folder. And first we'll take a look at this in context of the UI, say the Finder, and being able to do it there. It's pretty easy. And then second, we'll take a look at doing it on the command line, because doing it on the command line, whenever you're wanting to manipulate multiple files with pattern matching, you have a much easier time of being able to move and do these large sweeping changes all at one time, usually with a really quick command. So before we can actually do that, I need to emulate. And you can follow along. You need to emulate the same situation that I had, and we're going to do that with brace expansion that we have right here. Now, fundamentally, without having to read through all of this, This right here is your brace expansion. Looking at an example is worth 1,000 words, like they say a picture is as well. So this, actually turn on my mouse right there. There we go, there's my focus mouse. So this right here is our expansion. So this is our shell prompt. And then we have a command, in this case it's echo, and then we have whatever we're going to do here. Everything within these braces is going to expand out in conjunction and create more or less a matrix with everything on either side of that. So you can see it's creating ADE, ACE, ABE. So there it is right there. You've got A going with D and then E, A going with C and then E, A going with B and then E. Now the cool thing is you can do this multiple times. Every time that the shell, or at least this case the bash shell, encounters these braces, it will expand out to do this matrix, and it does it just wicked fast. So what we're going to do on the command line is we're going to create a folder. I'm going to go to my desktop first off, and then I'm going to make a folder. I'm going to do that with mkdir. If you want to know what that is, you want information, look at man mkdir, and it will basically tell you right there, make directories. So there are some switches in here which are really pretty cool. The one that I know of most importantly is this -p, which means if you make a folder way down in an embedded path, the -p will create all folders in between. We're not doing that now. We're just going to use make dir, and we are going to use I'll just call it playtime. Now this is going to make a folder that I'm going to see as I hide this. There's that folder right there on my desktop here in the Macintosh. We'll move it over here so we can see what's going on. We'll currently open that up. That is going to be an empty folder right there, as we can see. We'll switch back over to our shell. And we are now going to use our brace expansion in order to make and simulate the same situation that I was in, where I had to move some files, or move a lot of files, into a particular folder. So we're going to use the touch command, which we've used in a previous video. Touch simply allows you to create empty files or modify the last updated date. There's multiple dates that are on files, not just the one that you see in the Finder. So like when we look here and we see date modified, each file and folder has multiple dates. In fact, on the Macintosh, if I right click here, I can see, look at all the dates. I have date modified, date created, date last opened, and date added. So just because you see one in your UI does not mean there's only one. There's multiple dates on most files. But let's do touch, and now I'm going to do file dash. Now remember, anything that you put that's literal, that will be applied to all files, and as soon as it hits brace expansion, it's going to then create all of the different variations. So let's create a brace expansion where we put the brace. Actually, let's pretend that we've got files named in date reverse order. And we want the month and we want the day as well. Now I'm going to put an opening brace, and I'll put 01 ... and then I will put, there's 12 months. I had to think about that for a second. Now let's put a second brace expansion of 01 ... Now, obviously we can't really do this. It wouldn't apply because when we got to the month of 02, February, there's not even a possible 30 days. A maximum possible would be 29. On average, it's going to be 28, of course. So this really doesn't apply. These files are not true, obviously. And we'll give the file an extension of .txt. And watch the magic happen right here, where all of a sudden a number of files will appear. We'll see nothing on the command line. From the time that I hit the return right here, I love this right here. It's almost like it's magic. It's just, boom, I was on my desktop. That's funny. Well, we have a cleanup to do. This is actually pretty awesome. Look at what happened to my desktop. I got this smattering of 1 billion files because I didn't go into the directory. There it is right there, proof that I was on my desktop. And in fact, if we do an ls/lha to list my desktop, we can see that I've got a ton of files. But that's no big deal. Let's just move that. And it looks like it's not putting in my my zeros. It's probably a switch that I actually need to put in order to get that to happen. Probably didn't read. But this is no big deal. This is what's wonderful about learning the command line. Knowing how to move things all over the place, we can do that. All we're going to be doing now is we're going to be getting into our pattern matching really quick here. So we want to move all of these files from our desktop over to that Playtime folder. So we've got, I named it Playtime lowercase, right? Yeah, there we go, Playtime lowercase. So in order to move these, we are going to use the mv command. Now if we do in man mv, again, we're just doing a manual. There it is, quite simply, move files. And in yesterday's video, the previous video in this series, I'm just doing these one right after the other, just building on what I cover. We talked about, I just lost train of thought. Man, move. What was I talking about? I don't know. Move files. All right. We'll move on with that. Let's just move these, and let's do it with our pattern matching, or what is sometimes thought of as globbing. So the first thing is we're going to be able to use these patterns. Let's switch over to the GNU documentation and take a look at this. So with pattern matching, the way that it works, the most common symbol you're going to find on the command line is the star. This basically matches any string, as we can see right there, including the null string. It's really cool to go through these docs and read them because they lead you to other things that you learn about. Obviously, in this video, with the amount of time that I have, I'm already taking 30 minutes of your time, and really, it would take me hours and hours to cover all of the individual details. You're going to have to read this stuff for yourself. I just want to show you the stuff that gets you interested. You can see that the question mark matches a single character. Then we've got the enclosed characters. Don't think of this as the ellipse of the ... That's not what we're focusing on right there. We're focusing on the brackets right here, where it basically shows you've got A through D and then X through Z. And you can see right here it's saying it's equivalent to A, B, C, D, and then it stops at this point right in the middle and then goes X, Y, Z. So we find this in regular expressions. In fact, a lot of technologies borrow and adapt from whatever the technology was that existed before that. So the basic pattern matching may have spawned, and basically then we got regular expressions, which is absolutely wonderful to know how to do that. A little obscure, but good to know. So we know that the star now is going to represent everything. And rather than going through boring documentation, a good example is always worth 1,000 words. Let's take a look at that. I want to move from my desktop file. Now what's cool is I can start to type FIL and then hit my tab key. When I hit my tab key, it expands out to the smallest amount of what it can match against, and then everything else could be something else. So for example, if I started to type in 1, then it would try to expand out to whatever 1 would be able to grab. But at any point in time, I can simply put the star in order to actually match all of the rest of this pattern. So in this case, I know for sure on my desktop that I have files named file with 18 starting for the year and then the star. So where do I want to move those? Well, I'm just going to put playtime, and then let's see, those should all move, as they did, right off of my desktop in the background, all into this one folder, which is really pretty cool now. So let's go repeat that and take a look at how we might do that again. This time we will go into my Playtime folder. I will change directories. We are there now. I can do an ls, and I can see that all the files are there. I'll clear my terminal, and let's create another set of files. So I'm going to touch, and I'll call this one other, and I'll put in a dash, and then actually, let's just remember from history. Let's go back to when I made it before, and let's just, no sense in typing when you already have it. So there we've got other right there. We're in the folder. So here was the situation that I had, and unfortunately my dates aren't matching exactly, but we can see over here on the folder that there are the combination of the two right there. So we've got some of them that are file and some of them that are other. Now what I wanted to do is I wanted to make folders that those folders would be organized by month, and then I would move each of these sets of files into them other and other, or file and file, or it doesn't really matter if you wanted to commingle others from the month of 12, which in this case my my brace expansion wasn't working for some reason. It wasn't getting those prefixes on the 0. I did this on my shell over in my other account. I'm using Z shell, and Z shell is probably accounting for, that's the ZSH. So if we do which ZSH, that's the shell that I happen to be using right there. It's probably accounting for the leading zeros that we see right there, where bash is not accounting for those leading zeros when it actually expands out using these the brace expansion. So we would have to look at what the option is, which I didn't look at that. I sort of assumed that bash would take care of this. And bash may not handle the leading zeros, zero padding where necessary. Let's see. When either X or Y begins with 0, the shell attempts to force generated containing same number of digits, 0 padding. Well, it says that it does, but unfortunately in my live example right now it is not. That would be a great homework assignment, find out how to do that. But let's just move what we've got. So first off, I want to make directory, make dir. And so at this stage we sort of start to think, is it possible for us to not have to make all of the folders individually? So let's try 2018 and let's see, can we use brace expansion here with these going from 01 ... to 12? My guess is probably. So let's take a look now. Scroll down, either that or scroll up. There we go, up at the top. And yeah, it looks like it's not actually putting those in right there, which is sort of the preceding zeros. It may be because the dash is in the name. I don't know exactly why, but ideally we would have wanted it to do this right there. And I'm just going to take the time to quickly do this just because it's not too bad. In order to do this, to get these all nice and 0 padded right there. Sorry, this is a little bit boring to watch, but if you watch my keystrokes, why didn't that one go? There we go. It is good to know on the Macintosh how to do things pretty quickly. You know, rather than hitting the cursor and going all the way to get to the 9, I'm just basically going all the way to the end with those arrow keys in order to get that to happen. All right, so now let's just move all of our files, and this is how you would do this. We would basically MV move our file, and we've got 18, and then let's say we've got our 12, and presuming that the date would actually work, and I wanted from 01 all the way up to 30, or however many days there are, I would simply just glob all of those into my 2018 12 folder. And it would move those, all of that batch all at one time. And so then all you have to do is simply go back here, just change your values, and do it pretty quickly. I mean, it doesn't take too long. You can write a script if you have to do this on a regular basis. You know, doing this by hand like I am right now, I would be going to 09, and then I believe this is probably going to be 9 just because it didn't get the preceding 0, so on. What you will notice is that all of those files have been moved into their respective folders. And the cool thing about all of this pattern matching and this globbing is that you can get pretty complex in terms of wanting to do this. In fact, I believe on the move command, I would be able to do something like, I'm guessing this. Don't quote me on this one. I might have been able to, this is where it takes a little bit of research, be able to specify that I would be able to move any file that starts with the word file or other. This is not precise. I have not done this myself right there, what I'm showing you. So I would have to play around and do that. But again, like I said at the very beginning of this video, I'm learning as well. In fact, I think once I wrap this video up, I'm going to go see what I would need to put if I wanted to, all in one fell swoop, have both of those files and the other, those starting with file and the word other all at one time in order to move them. The whole goal here is to be able to do things as quickly, as easily, and efficiently as possible. And I think just with learning about your brace expansion and your pattern matching here, you should be able to give yourself enough different examples. So the trick here is, homework would be, make scenarios that you have had before. For example, make a bunch of files that look like JPEG files that come off of a camera, and you want to move a bunch of those. Maybe you want to move those files based on size. Any file that is larger than a certain size, you want to be able to move them. Of course, you can always use the find command and exec, or passing to xargs. That would be piping to xargs. Xargs is another very cool tool. Do a man xargs. And look at that one. That one's a whole nother video and another time. But this is what's cool about the command line. This is being able to do things quickly in the shell. And I would just give I'm going to do that. I'm going to give myself an example, find out how to match multiple files, play with my documentation that we learned about, the 2 different URLs that you can go back and look at. In fact, I'll put those up on screen again. Let's do a cat users shared and do it the links. There you go. There they are. And I'm not going to get that close. I'll just leave them on screen right there. But I think that's going to wrap up the video for today. Hopefully it's given you a taste of being able to use the brace expansion and the globbing. Globbing is more common, but pattern matching is just universally, that's what we're doing, is pattern matching. 3 great keywords to know within the shell, and I hope this has helped you out. So, as always, let's get QWERTY. And until next time, see you later.